Thanks for checking out this episode of On the Sidelines. John Luck along with Zach Sylvia. And Patriots training camp is about to open when we're recording this episode of the program, but there has been a lot of talk in Patriots Nation about what is going on between Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick that leads us to this leading off. There's been quite the war of words between the two. Patriots owner Robert Kraft appeared on a live episode of Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski's Dudes on Dudes podcast held at Fanatics Fest in New York. Kraft described the hiring of Belichick, quote, his best move and one that shocked people. This is the quote. The one that got questioned the most was in 1999. I gave up a number one draft pick for a coach that had won a little over 40% of his games to get him out. I think getting Bill Belichick to come to the Patriots in 1999 was a big risk, and I got hammered in the Boston media, but he was with us for 24 years and we did okay. So Bill Belichick released a statement to ESPN coming back at that by saying, quote, as I told Robert multiple times through the years, I took a big risk by taking the New England Patriots head coaching job. I already had an opportunity to be the head coach of the New York Jets, but the ownership situation wasn't stable. I had been warned by multiple previous coaches as well as other members of other NFL organizations and the media that the New England job was going to come with many internal obstacles. I made it clear that we would have to change the way the team is managed to regain the previously attained success. So we're hearing a lot about the word risk. So at the end of the day, who took the bigger risk on the other person? Robert Kraft on Bill Belichick or Bill Belichick on Robert Kraft and the Patriots?
I want to say probably Robert Kraft because at the time, Robert Kraft was a new owner, and being able to get Bill Belichick for, the head coaching position was incredible to steal him away from the Jets. I definitely think Belichick took a risk on a team that, they had pieces, they had a good amount of players, but weren't at a championship level, and Robert Kraft had just bought the team. So I definitely think Belichick took a bigger risk there.
So I think you're right in saying that, because I went back and looked at kind of what the landscape of the NFL was like in the late 90s when Belichick was kind of between jobs, I guess if you want to call it that. Of course, we know Bill Parcells took the Patriots to the Super Bowl in 1996, but after that, the Patriots actually had two more playoff appearances. One against the Steelers, that was just an offensive juggernaut of a game. The Patriots lost that one 7-6. But the postseason after that, the Patriots still made the playoffs, losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the wild card round. Meanwhile, you look at what Bill Belichick could have had coming to him with the Jets in 2000. If he stayed with the team, he would have had a team that made the AFC Championship a couple years ago, and really a team that I feel like in the Jets that maybe wouldn't be Super Bowl contenders, but would at least be up there in the talks of winning the division and things like that. But at the end of the day, Bill basically outed himself in saying that, the Patriots maybe are the better team here when it comes to this risky battle, saying this part. I already had an opportunity to be the head coach of the New York Jets, but the ownership situation was unstable. Realistically, to me, that just says that Bill didn't want to be the Jets head coach, and Bill would have taken a job being a drive-through attendant at a McDonald's instead of being with the New York Jets. If that's the case, then, Robert Kraft really didn't have to do much to get Bill Belichick with the Patriots.
No, and I totally agree. And, it's the Jets organization. They haven't had a lot of success since, Super Bowl III? Which was how many Super Bowls ago?
There was 2011. I'll give them that much. The great upset. Bart Scott can't wait.
Yes, but it's not hard to have a coach like Bill Belichick. A guy won a majority of his games. He already had won 2 Super Bowls coming in as a D coordinator for the Giants. And he was just basically moving buildings from the Giants to the Jets. But obviously, who would really want to be the Jets head coach?
So I think the interesting part about this is Robert Kraft just kind of coming out swinging here. And I think that deep down, there's a part of Robert Kraft that is still hurt, angry, and saddened by the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's not where the likes of a Jerry Jones or the Rooneys are. Robert Kraft isn't in the Hall of Fame, and people still keep bringing up Spygate and things like that. But at the end of the day, Robert Kraft hasn't really been in that discussion of was this dynasty more Brady or Belichick. Robert Kraft's name doesn't really get mentioned just as the guy that signs a paycheck. So right now, Kraft's trying to show that he's responsible for bringing everything together. But let's not forget, the first year Kraft hired Belichick, what was Bill's first season as a head coach? 5-11. What happened shortly after that? Obviously, Drew Bledsoe gets taken out by Mo Lewis, and the rest is history. So I think at the end of the day, Robert Kraft is just feeling more hurt than anything else in this situation. But let's talk about if this relationship, business relationship, is salvageable, because there's been comparisons between these two and Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones. And that took a long time to really quell over. So is this relationship between these two salvageable?
I don't think so, honestly. And I go back to that little docu-series that the Patriots that came out with a couple of years ago, The Dynasty. That took so many shots at Bill Belichick in his ways of coaching, his interaction with the players and the organization. It really dimmed the light on Belichick's career. So I think especially after that, that definitely hurt their relationship.
Kind of interesting. It's like As the World Turns Foxborough edition. But there are bigger things to talk about, and that is the fact that training camp opens very shortly from when we are recording this, and it's time to talk about over-unders for the football season. A lot of sports books have the Patriots over-under for win total this year put at 8.5. And we were talking before the show, and if you're putting the over-under at 8.5, let me help you out. Over, slam the over on that one.
That's right. I 100% agree. And I mean, obviously, you're going to have a lower win total because you were a 4-win team last year. But you look at their schedule now, and you look at the team that they've built throughout the offseason, through free agency, draft. This team is winning, I think, 11 games this year, going 11-6.
I went 10-7. I think the games you lose are Buffalo when you're on the road. That's a Sunday night game. Atlanta at home. Atlanta, I think, could be a sneaky team. Plus, you had the NFC South that just randomly wins games out of nowhere for whatever reason. Then you go on the road to Tampa Bay, and, I mean, that's another weird place to play. They're another NFC South team, obviously. And then I put the Jets down for the Thursday night game because something just doesn't feel right about that game. And then the Cincinnati Bengals is another loss. So I have them down for a 4-game losing streak, but I also have them winning 7 out of the first 8 games of the season. So I think that this could be a very streaky Patriots team, but I think this is also a team that could have a lot of learning points for a new head coach with the Patriots and his new coaching staff with Mike Vrabel. I mean, there's a lot of young players on this team, players that are trying to find their role here. Stephon Diggs obviously coming back. We'll talk about that in a second, I'd imagine. But there's a lot of places for Mike Vrabel to look and say, okay, we're doing this good. We have to do this better. And I think that having streaks like that can really help a first-year head coach out with a new team.
I 100% agree. And, I mean, you obviously look at the team that they built throughout the offseason. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we as fans and the team is going to look for this year, how is that offensive line going to do? How is Will Campbell going to adjust to the pros? Is his arms too short? But we all know that's BS because played in the SEC for 3 years as a true freshman. But I think they will be a fine team, and overall, I think people are underestimating how good they're going to be.
So you said you're going to the first preseason game against the Commanders. Whew. Almost
Careful
walked into
there.
that one.
Careful there.
You're going to the first preseason game, but as we get through training camp here and kind of work our way through the preseason, is there one or a couple things maybe you're watching out for as we get ready for the regular season in a few weeks?
Yeah, there is a couple of things. One of them is the left guard position to see who actually will start there, whether it's Cole Strange or maybe somebody else. Another thing is obviously the wide receiver room. Who's going to make the team? Because you have 9 receivers on the roster. Do you cut the second-round pick that you got last year or both receivers from that year and bring in the undrafted free agent who, personally, I'm in love with, Efton Chisholm, just because there's nothing like a short white receiver in New England.
That's a good way to put it. To me, I actually wrote it down here, so I want to make sure I actually say what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is Josh McDaniels' impact with Drake May, and that is using all the tools that May has available to him. You know, you can look at, Stephon Diggs being that primary receiver, but I think it's going to take him a few games to kind of get into in-game shape and in-game shape with the Patriots game plan. But last year, and even a few years before that, what's been the Patriots' MO? It's been the passing games to a receiver, or a tight end rather, and a running back. Ramondre Stevenson was basically the biggest offensive threat this team had the last couple of years, I think. You go back and say Hunter Henry led the team with 66 receptions. Austin Hooper had 45. They're both tight ends. Your leading receiver was Pop Douglas when it comes to receptions with 66, but the next receiver is Kayshon Boutte, who I don't think is going to be knocking on the door of any Pro Bowls. So this is the first time in a long time the Patriots actually have a talented receiving core. So I'm interested to see what Josh McDaniels does with that offensive game plan, and bringing Drake May along as we get into year 2 and 3 next year.
And you said too, Ramondre Stevenson, I'd say he's a decent running back. I wouldn't say he's great, but that's why you brought in a guy from your second-round pick, Travion Henderson, who I think is going to open up that pass game. He's the next James White, I think. He's athletic, he's explosive, he can make plays out of the backfield, and he can block, which is a great thing. And especially for Pop Douglas, I think he's going to have a big year because Josh McDaniels loves his slot receivers. Look at Julian Edelman. A couple of years, he plays in the slot most of the time. He was the only Patriots receiver with over 1,000 yards. So you look at this offense, you look at past Patriots offenses and see who can ignite this offense and who can kind of bring it down.
Well, the last couple of years, I think Pop Douglas was maybe the biggest receiving threat they had, which maybe that says a little more about the football team as a whole. Now you have Stephon Diggs, you have Kyle Williams, I think that'll be talented, and you mentioned Henderson. I completely forgot about him, but I think he could be maybe Rookie of the Year category if he plays out well. We will take a quick break here on the show. When we come back, Dame time is officially in Portland. We'll discuss that decision. Plus, Jaylen Brown, how big of a sacrifice has he made with the Boston Celtics?
Welcome back to the Cable 8 News. I am John Myers.
And I'm Nick Palmieri.
And Nick, nice to have you here on the set.
It is.
Or is it nice to have me on the set?
He's still got it! Oh my God! Bridgewater, second effort, third effort, and fourth effort.
This is a community facility. BTV Cable Access is here to present and to represent all the voices in town.
Say it louder, say it louder, we are stronger than we were before.
There have been many members of this corporation who have served voluntarily and spent many hours of their personal time to work toward creating a local network with varied programs to serve the community of Bridgewater.
Struggle further, struggle more.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
It's about community, it's about coming together, it's about helping us out, because at the end of the day, that's what makes all of us strong.
Now we're stronger.
Since this is on the sidelines, we're always obligated to do a basketball segment because I'm the hoop head and I kind of plan out the show. But Dame time is coming home to Portland. Yes, Damian Lillard signed a surprising 3-year contract with the Portland Trail Blazers worth $42 million. And that surprised a lot of people because there was discussion as to whether he would go to Boston, the Lakers, Golden State, Minnesota. But at the end of the day, time's up and he's going out to Portland.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, out of all those teams that you just listed, I'm glad that he went back to this one. And one thing I read when he was in Milwaukee, being away from family was a big thing for him. So because a lot of his family is in Portland and having to move, I don't even know how many states across. He was a long way from home, and it's definitely time for a reunion.
Yeah, you can't fault a guy for wanting to go home and be with his family, especially after a nasty injury like an Achilles tear, which is what he went through at the end of last season. It didn't work out in Milwaukee. Miami, I don't think was going to work out because it would have been the same situation as Portland in terms of basketball play. But in this case, he's already getting paid because the Bucks waived him, so he's going to get that money. But 3 years, $42 million. The first year is going to be a wash because he's recovering from the injury. But when he gets back for years 2 and 3, it's going to be interesting because he'll be able to take, like a Scoot Henderson under his wing and kind of help him progress into the player that a lot of people had Scoot Henderson chalked up to be. And, you still have Robert Williams in there. There's a few pieces I think the Trailblazers can work with. And having someone like a Damian Lillard that, although he may not be at Dame time level still, he can still go out there, score his 30, 35 points, and help the next generation through, which I think is big.
I agree, and you obviously look at the roster. They're sneaky talented. They are very young, obviously inexperienced, but bringing in a guy like Dame, you bring in a veteran who has that experience, who's been through those playoff moments, who knows how to get to that level. It's definitely a good thing for the city of Portland.
But the only thing that surprises me is the fact he went out west still. I talked about it on the last episode. This clearly shows this was bigger than the game of basketball, because now if you go into the West, you still have to compete with a Golden State, a Denver, a Lakers, a Clippers. The list goes on and on. It's just the Timberwolves, the list goes on and on. And it's going to be an onslaught, not to mention the Mavericks. So this is purely because Damian Lillard wanted to be home, and I don't think Celtics fans can be angry at all, especially the fact that he said, no thanks to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Thank God.
Another big story that came from the basketball world locally was Jaylen Brown appearing on Kyrie Irving's 24-hour live Twitch stream. That's a lot to say. Brown, who was ranked at 92 on NBA 2K, was asked by Irving if he should have been higher, a 94 or 95. And Brown said, quote, "People haven't seen me at my best because we have a loaded roster, so sometimes you need to do what needs to be done as a team." Brown said he respected Irving's opinion that he should have been ranked higher, but that he wouldn't complain about his rating. Noah Dalzell, who actually has appeared on the show last year during the finals, wrote a great article on Brown focusing on what he's done off the court, but he did talk about on the court as well, saying, quote, "I've had to change roles, styles. I've had to do things that other players of my talent just haven't had to do. And I've been okay with them because I've always been a team guy. I feel like sometimes that gets taken for granted." Have we taken Jaylen Brown's basketball abilities for granted as Celtics fans?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, we've seen a good amount. We've definitely seen his improvement in ball handling and shooting ability. But overall, I'll say I believe it when I see it. We'll see if this upcoming year, especially with a roster that's maybe not as talented as you've had years past, a roster without Jason Tatum, you look to see how they can actually perform with Jaylen Brown leading the charge.
The interesting thing about Jaylen Brown, don't forget what he went through the last 2 games of the Knicks series, basically playing on a damaged knee and still going off for, 20 and 26 points and playing, 32 and 37 minutes. Each of those games, obviously, without Jason Tatum. In my eyes, I think that kind of shows the leader Jaylen Brown wants to be. And this is a big proving moment for Jaylen Brown, because when Jason Tatum comes back, if the Celtics decide to flip that switch that we all are afraid they're going to flip and maybe trade Jaylen Brown, if he can prove that he can truly be a number 1 guy, I think that's huge for the team. And that's why I think for him this year is so important. But getting back to the question, I think Jaylen Brown has maybe been overlooked as a superstar. A lot of people look and say when Kyrie was here, it was Kyrie and Tatum, and Jaylen Brown is kind of that complementary piece. I mean, me as a Celtics fan, I haven't really put Jaylen Brown up at the same level as Jason Tatum. I always thought it was Tatum's team and Brown was right under him. Mm-hmm. But obviously the NBA championship year, Jaylen Brown, the Finals MVP, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So he has proven to the basketball world that he is worth being, one of the top players in the league. I think there's always going to be a slight from various players. There were players that said Tyrese Halliburton wasn't a good basketball player as well. And you're always going to have this in the NBA. It's just, this has been a long issue with Jaylen Brown, that he's always been viewed as the Robin in Batman and Robin, the B when it comes to A and B. He's always been a step under Jason Tatum, and that's why I think this year is extremely important for Jaylen Brown.
I agree too. And again, as I said before, we look at this team and it's not really the same roster you look at last year. You had Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, and a healthy Jason Tatum. So now you look at it, it's just they got Jaylen Brown starting. Probably have either, if he's not traded, Anthony Simons, as well as...
And George. Don't forget we got George.
You know what? George is good on my radar because I saw him and Jaylen Brown sitting together. So if Jaylen Brown's okay with him, I'm okay with him. But until proven otherwise, if he's a good basketball player or not, which he's not. But we'll see when the season comes.
So basketball fans kind of had their holdover over the past couple of weeks as Summer League tipped off in Vegas. It's now done. The Charlotte Hornets, your Summer League champions, defeating the Sacramento Kings in a very competitive game down the stretch. A couple of the stories to look for is the fact the Celtics finished 4-1. Jordan Walsh was very impressive in Summer League, also got thrown out of a Summer League game, but that's another story for another time. And Cooper Flagg played 2 games in Summer League before being shut down. He went, I think, 5 for 21 in his first game against Bronny James and the Lakers. But Summer League as a whole, how do you feel about it? Because to me, as a basketball fan, it's nice to be able to see basketball played on TV a little bit. But you know what? If you miss a game here or there, it's not bad. But Summer League is a great chance, I think, for some of the players that are taking maybe pick 10 to 35, really to show what they're made of and maybe make their case to be on the roster by opening night.
I mean, I definitely think it's exciting because you're definitely watching a game where there's a lot to lose. Like, you're fighting for that 12th, 13th roster spot on that bench. And who knows, maybe even good enough to be a starter like Flagg is. But in the end, it's impressive because you see all these young guys fighting for these spots, working each and every day to accomplish their dreams.
And the cool thing is, you think about all the superstars in the NBA, going back to LeBron James playing his Summer League games over at UMass Boston. Jokic played in the Summer League. SGA played in the Summer League. You truly don't know who you're watching in a Summer League game, and 5 or 10 years down the road, they could be the best player in the world. And you can say, I actually watched them when they played in front of 400 people at UNLV in Summer League. That's pretty cool to think about. It requires a lot of hindsight and a lot of dedication to the game. But I think that's just something kind of cool as a basketball fan to look and say, you know what? I watched this guy on day one, and it's pretty cool to see how he's progressed as a player in the game.
Yeah. A little tidbit, too. The Charlotte Hornets winning the Summer League is the first championship they have ever won in anything.
They even got a ring.
They didn't get a ring.
Charles Lee, no, he wasn't with the team. So there were a couple other Celtics assistant coaches formerly that are with the Hornets now. They actually did get Summer League championship rings. So fun fact for the day. When we come back, we'll talk about another summertime tradition, and that is Major League Baseball's All-Star Game. But the way it ended was definitely unique.
Turnaround to win it. Got it!
Welcome back to the madness. Heading into the city? Don't even think about driving.
The T is by far the best value in the city.
Park with ease at one of the many MBTA lots or garages with rates that beat anything in the city.
You just have to tap your phone or contactless card and ride. No machines, no stress. It's modern, fast, it's easy.
And the best part, you get dropped off steps away from where you want to go.
Hop off at Park Street, explore the State House, Boston Common, and the Theater District.
And don't miss a concert at the Orpheum.
Ride smart, ride the T.
So many reasons to get on board.
Back here on the show, time for the buzzer and time to talk baseball. And sadly for Zach, he has to deal with Kyle Schwarber not being a member of the Boston Red Sox. But he was a big difference maker in Major League Baseball's All-Star game, and it had quite the dramatic finish. The American League came back from down 6-0 to tie the game in the top of the 9th inning. Now, instead of extras, the game actually went into a swing-off where each league picked 3 batters and they had 3 swings. So it was kind of a mini home run derby, but Kyle from Waltham went ahead and had 3 straight home runs to actually win the game and win the game's MVP. The fact that the All-Star game for baseball went into a swing-off, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, obviously, normally we want to see it finish a game, but All-Star weekends are all about like entertainment. You want to bring that show factor, and to have the best hitters from the AL and the NL on a swing-off and considered extra innings, I think that's a great thing.
The interesting thing to me is the fact that Aaron Judge wasn't in the swing-off, Shohei Ohtani wasn't in the swing-off, because from what I'm understanding and reading on social media, I know, bad idea to bring up on the show, but they weren't actually at the stadium when the swing-off happened. So you're talking about, players from the Marlins and the A's, and obviously Kyle Schwarber sticking around to have the home run swing-off. But to me, I think the swing-off would have been good if the game is tied after 10. The way the American League was coming back and chewing away at that 6-run deficit, if you give the American League one more inning, I think they may have gone ahead and gotten the win before the swing-off was needed. But we remember back in Milwaukee, I don't think you were born, so maybe not, back in 2002. But no, we went through that last time. But back in 2002, it got to the point, I think it was the 14th inning, when the umpires went to Bud Selig, and the decision was made that if the game is tied after the 14th inning, then the game is declared a tie, which nobody wants to see that in an All-Star game. So I understand the concept of the swing-off and what it means for the game and a quick ending for the game. But I think for baseball, just throw an extra inning in there. I'm not saying play it until the 17th or 19th inning, but you know what? Have a 10th inning, and then you can go ahead and have your swing off and have Kyle from Waltham hit dingers all over Truist Park. We will take a break here. We will have On the Sidelines overtime coming up, and we'll discuss the team that plays here in Boston. That is the Red Sox. And speaking of Boston, will the city ever host an All-Star game? Ever again? It's been like 25, 30 years since they actually hosted an All-Star game. Fun fact.
Welcome back, buddy. Okay, let's roll. Hey, you hear that? There's a truck back there. Hey, whoa, stop! Watch the paint. Oh, man. On your right. On your right.
Your car is talking. Are you listening? Find out more about new safety technologies at mycardoeswhat.org.
I guess sometimes things just happen. Devastating things. It's got nothing to do with fairness. Bam. Your whole world changes in an instant. And you never see it coming. That's what happened to me the day my mother had a stroke. I'm Paul George, and I want you to learn the signs of a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. Because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Protect the ones you love. Spot a stroke. F-A-S-T. Fast.
Back here for overtime. John, Zach here with you, and we have Fenway Park back from 1999. Why do we have that? Well, it's the last time the city of Boston actually hosted an All-Star game. That was, of course, the famous moments of Ted Williams coming out and greeting all the All-Stars on the field, Mark McGwire hitting balls in the home run derby to the Mass Pike. It was a fun time had by all, but little did we know that was the last time we would see an All-Star game here in the city of Boston. The NBA hasn't been here in a long time. I'll talk about that in a little bit. The NHL, they were here in '96. But why hasn't the city of Boston, in your mind, hosted an All-Star game? And do you think at some point in the next 5 or 10 years, they will actually host an All-Star game?
I'm going to answer that second question first. I believe that they will in the next couple of years, whether that's either Fenway Park or the TD Garden. I definitely think you will see some sort of all-star game come to Boston. But I think the biggest reason is we haven't seen a game like this in Boston in years. It's probably because of a lot of the newer cities that they're trying to, get out there. I mean, Boston is a big market city. I mean, you've had New York host a couple of all-star games, but they want to get these smaller, lesser-known cities into these all-star games so that more viewership for their audience.
So, fun fact here: Atlanta, after this all-star game, has hosted the all-star game twice. Since Boston last hosted in '99. The last time the NBA hosted an all-star game here in the city of Boston, you want to take a guess who the MVP was of the game?
No.
Oscar Robertson, back in 1964. That was the last time the city of Boston hosted an NBA All-Star game. Now, there's been a lot of stuff going on in the city of Boston since then, I understand, but still, when we're getting to the point where Phoenix, Arizona has hosted the NBA All-Star game 4 times, and it's like trying to drop blood from a stone to get Boston to host an NBA All-Star game once in about, 60 years? That's ridiculous. Now, it has come out that the reason the NBA hasn't chosen the city of Boston in the past is because there are some prerequisites when it comes to the NBA choosing a site for the All-Star game. This came out in Boston.com back in February, saying that the NBA wants access to a convention center for a week. I think we can probably do that here. A secondary arena for other events, 7,000 hotel rooms, among other things. So to me, I think the reason the Celtics haven't been able to host an All-Star game is the fact there's no other arena that can host a basketball game. You look at Golden State, I think it was this year actually, they played at their new building, the Chase Center in San Francisco. They had the celebrity game at their old arena in Oakland. So you need to have 2 buildings, I guess, to have All-Star Weekend. So at that point, Boston's screwed. They're never hosting an NBA All-Star game ever again.
No. In my mind, I was thinking the Auerbach Center, but I don't think that's going to hold enough people.
I mean, Connie Forum, I think, would be the only place that you could come close. But still, you're talking about going from the city to Chestnut Hill? Ugh, on the MBTA, good luck with that.
Maybe the dunk.
That would be way too far.
Yeah.
The NHL, I'm kind of surprised it's been that long since they've hosted an All-Star game here at the TD Garden. You have to go back to '96 when they had the glowing puck on Fox. I feel like at some point the NHL has to come back to Boston because they are an original 6 city. They're a fairly successful franchise, and I think you're going to get the fan base. You've seen what they've had in City Hall Plaza in the past for the Winter Classic, the Four Nations Face-Off. The championship game, I think part of the reason the championship game for the Four Nations Face-Off was so successful was because of the crowd at the TD Garden. And it's fairly centralized, located between Canada and the rest of the United States. So, host an All-Star game, somebody. Let's move on to the next topic here, and that is the Boston Red Sox entering July 22nd. They are 54 and 48, 6 games back in the AL East and a game and a half above Tampa Bay for the 3rd and final wild card spot. Just your impressions of the Red Sox over the past couple of weeks here. They have gone on a 10-game winning streak entering the All-Star break, but here we are coming out of the All-Star break. They lose 2 of 3 to the Cubs. They lose a weird game against the Phillies that came down to a catcher's interference. but had the Red Sox reverted back to what they were in the first part of the season?
No, and I don't. I think everyone might be overreacting a little bit with these last couple of losses. The Chicago Cubs are a very good team. They're one of the best in the National League. And I mean, you beat them once, but obviously you want to beat a team 4 times. You got to beat a team 4 times to win a series. But I think right now, I think they're in a pretty good spot. Their roster is healthy. Their young guys are starting to get going. Roman Anthony finally learning how to hit in the majors. I definitely think they're in a good direction right now.
I'm not too positive on this team. Go figure. We knew coming out of the All-Star break the Red Sox were going to face an absolute gauntlet. The Cubs, the Phillies, the Dodgers, they're all at the top, if not near the top of their respective divisions. I had a feeling that this was going to be fool's gold entering the All-Star break. You sweep the Rockies. The Brockton Rocks could probably sweep the Colorado Rockies. They swept the Nationals. We could probably sweep the Nationals. And the Tampa Bay Rays, I'll give them credit. There were actually some very competitive games there. There was a 1-0 game. There was a game that came down to Cedar Rafaela hitting a walk-off home run. So I'll give them the Rays series. But still, to me, there's just too much unbalanced roster making when it comes to this team. It took forever to get Alex Bregman back in the lineup. You also have Yoshida, who you're working back in. The rookies have been a positive, but we've been through this before where the Red Sox have so much hope, the fan base has so much hope, and whether it be Chaim Bloom, Craig Breslow, they just find a way to squash any positivity. You go back to last year, through 102 games, guess what the Red Sox record was?
53-47.
54-48. Guess where they were in the standings last year in the American League East after 102 games?
Third wild card spot.
They were 6.5 games back in the AL East. Go figure. Same distance they're back in the AL East this year. You go back to 2023. What was their record after 102 games?
53-47.
Trick question. 55-47. Close enough. Still makes the same point. But guess how far back they were in the AL East?
7 games.
Bingo. So every year we get to this point where we say the Red Sox are going to be buyers. The Red Sox are on a roll. The Red Sox have momentum. Here comes October. And they just turn into a dumpster fire. We've been through this before. It's just been a sick cycle of baseball madness that the city of Boston has been through. And until this team shows me that they can go ahead and beat Philadelphia 2 out of 3, they can beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3, they can take down these top teams, I'm not going to have a lot of faith in them. And I'm the guy who chose them to make the ALCS earlier this year. To me, that's a stupid decision because now with each loss that you have, you're bettering the chances of Aroldis Chapman maybe not being on the Red Sox. With each loss you have that maybe ends with a catcher's interference or a bobble at first or a bobble in the outfield, maybe you're talking about a Wilyer Abreu not being with the Red Sox at the trade deadline. With each loss, there's ramifications that the Red Sox really have to think about as they continue to trek forward and hope to be a playoff team or at least be competitive in the month of September.
And I mean, you pretty much said it all. I agree with pretty much everything you said there.
My first rant in a long time. I feel back now.
It's okay. But obviously it's the same story we've seen for the past 3-4 years with the records and the standings and like eventual finishes. But if this team is to get off the ground, obviously the biggest thing is their pitching. Their bullpen has to be able to close out these games. Their offense has to get going during good pitching games. Because that's the one thing we saw early in the year. They have one good game with a great pitching, but their offense couldn't get going. Then their offense get going, but they could not pitch. Once that establishes itself, I think the team will be okay.
It's just maddening because you look back at the Tampa Bay series, you had Garrett Crochet throwing a gem, you had Bale throwing a gem. I think Walker Buehler actually pitched representable for a major league pitcher in that series as well. And he pitched okay against the Phillies as well. But the bullpen has continued to burn this team. And I had a feeling it would because just like last year, Alex Cora manages every single game like it's Game 7 of the ALCS or Game 7 of the World Series, and he pitches for matchups. And unfortunately doing that, you're burning out Greg Weissert, where he was a pretty good reliever at the start of the season, but now he's out here giving up bombs left and right. You're it's getting to the point now where in extra innings you have Kyle Hicks come in, the guy who you traded Rafael Devers for, and basically walk the entire Citizens Bank ballpark and lose the game. Not because of catcher's interference, but still, he had a big part in why the Red Sox lost that game. So to me, the bullpen is the biggest issue. And maybe this spirals into the next topic here. What do the Red Sox do at the trade deadline?
I think your biggest thing, I think you need to go get some pitchers. There's one guy I'm looking at right now out of Arizona that we saw some photos taken with him over social media. Again, it was Bregman and Crochet. Forget the guy's name, but you definitely need another person in that bullpen who can win you games. And personally, I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be Duran eventually. Again,
Welcome to my side.
I love Duran. I love watching him, but I think that he's your most valuable asset right now.
Yeah, really, this comes down to assets and what you're willing to trade away. If you want a starting pitcher like a Joe Ryan, or if you need a big bat first baseman, you have to give away prospects. You have to give away big names. So some names I'm looking at, Aroldis Chapman, I mentioned him. He's on a one-year deal, free agent at the end of the year. A lot of teams want that. Rob Refsnyder, a free agent at the end of the season. Wilyer Abreu is a name I think you need to really pay attention to, given the depth the team has in the outfield with Yoshida coming back and obviously Anthony. If you want to keep Durant in center field, you're going to have to say farewell to Wilyer Abreu, I think. And then another one to really pay attention to is the center fielder in Worcester. I'm going to screw up saying his name, so forgive me for this one on YouTube. Josh Nixon Garcia. I think it goes by the nickname, the Password.
Oh.
So I think he's someone that you may have to look at the trade deadline, maybe going other places to try and improve this team if they want to be, competitive in September and try and make a wild card. Because, as we said, they're in the third wild card as of this recording. They have the team that can make an ALCS run, I think, still, as maddening as it has been. But this team just needs a little something extra, I think. And just having Bregman and Yoshida come back from the IL isn't it.
I agree.
So let's change topics here to the WNBA. A lot of you probably know that the Connecticut Sun hosted the Indiana Fever, led by Caitlin Clark, at the TD Garden a couple weeks ago. And it was a sold-out TD Garden, which led a lot of people to try and bring up the topic that's been brought up every so often. Getting a WNBA team in the city of Boston. The Connecticut Sun are up for sale as a franchise, and there's been a lot of talk about them moving up to the city of Boston. But could the WNBA actually find a place here in the city?
I think so, and I think it'd be a great thing to have another WNBA team. Obviously, they're making their rounds. Their league is starting to come up, mostly because Caitlin Clark and a couple of other rookies that came in. But I definitely think a WNBA team in Boston's future is very possible.
I'm kind of hot and cold on this. I think the WNBA is a great product. I watch a lot of the games, and there's a lot of talented players on really all the teams. Nowadays, you look at the players; they want a franchise here in the city of Boston. After that game between the Sun and the Fever, Indiana's Sophie Cunningham said, quote, "There's so much history in this building. I've got some heat from saying stuff about cities. We'll talk about that in a second. But I like Boston, man. I really like Boston. Y'all need to get a team here." Governor Maura Healey proclaimed July 15th WNBA Day in the city of Boston and said, quote, "Boston is New England's capital and hub and would be the perfect place for a WNBA team." Obviously, a lot of the players want it. The governor wants it. But logistically, I don't know if it can work at the TD Garden. Now, I did go back and compare the schedules between concerts at the Garden and what the Connecticut Sun schedule is. I think I saw maybe 3 or 4, occurrences when they were kind of going head-to-head. But schedule-wise, it could work. But I don't know. It's just I don't know if the city of Boston can handle having another team to pay attention to. I mean, having the one game that they do in the TD Garden, I think works out great every year because you're bringing kind of these younger kids in. They can kind of see what the future could hold. But when it comes to just the financial aspects here, the WNBA, more likely than not, is going to go through a very nasty period of time at the end of October. I don't know if you saw the All-Star game, but during the warm-ups, players were players were wearing shirts that basically said they want to make more money, which I think they're certainly inclined to do.
100%.
Caitlin Clark makes $76,000 a year on a rookie contract.
There's no way she should
Let
be
that
making that much
digest.
money. No way. Not a chance.
Victor Wembanyama, I think, makes $12 million a year for his rookie contract. So there's definitely a pay scale issue here between the league and the players. You're also taking on a number of different cities. You heard Cunningham's quote, saying she got a lot of stuff saying, bad things about other cities. The WNBA is projected to go to Cleveland, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Portland within the next couple of years. So that's 4 more teams. If Boston gets added for a 5th team, then another team to make it an even number. I mean, is there enough money in the pool to make it viable for the city to host?
I mean, that's a tough question because you already have all these. You have 3 teams in Boston right now: the Sox, the Celtics, and the Bruins. I definitely think adding a 4th team can hurt you financially, but I think it would also, bring in, as you said, that new crowd of, especially like younger girls who want to play basketball, but they don't have like a hometown team to root for.
And I mentioned the proclamation that Maura Healey presented proclaiming July 15th as WNBA Day. Of all the players to show up at the State House, Aaliyah Boston from the Indiana Fever, who actually has a background playing in Worcester. So there's a lot of talent here in the state of Massachusetts when it comes to girls basketball. And listen, I want to have a WNBA team here because, like I said, it's a great product to watch. It's a lot of talented players that draw very big crowds. You look at what the New York Liberty have. They have a sellout every single night. It's a party atmosphere. Great players, great watch, great fans. Same thing for Golden State. I mean, there's a lot of talented athletes around here. It's just when it comes to kind of getting everything in order, I think a lot of the WNBA coming to Boston is dependent on the Boston Celtics getting their own arena. I did a little deep dive here. There's only 4 buildings that share NBA, NHL, and WNBA teams: Minnesota, LA, Seattle, and Washington. Besides that, it's basically a WNBA team and an NBA team sharing. It's just very difficult at the start of the WNBA season to have a building open for all the extra dates.
I mean, yeah, obviously you have those conflicting schedules, but again, I think it would be great for a city like Boston.
Yeah, I mean, Boston will get hyped over any sport.
Exactly.
And I mean, can you imagine if the New York Liberty draw what they do at the Barclays Center, what the TD Garden could do? That'd be awesome to see.
Exactly.
We will take a quick break here. We are past the halfway point in the year, but we're going to recap some things from the first 6 months of 2025 after the break.
Welcome back to the Cable 8 News. I am John Myers.
And I'm Nick Palmieri.
And Nick, nice to have you here on the set.
It is.
Or is it nice to have me on the set?
He's still got it! Oh my God! Bridgewater Second effort, third effort, and 4th effort.
This is a community facility. BTV Cable Access is here to present and to represent all the voices in town.
Say it louder, say it longer. We are stronger than we were before.
There have been many members of this corporation who have served voluntarily and spent many hours of their personal time to work toward creating a local network with varied programs to serve the community of Bridgewater.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
It's about community. It's about coming together. It's about helping us out. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes all of us strong.
Welcome back. It's game time here on the Sidelines, and we're about 6.5 months into the year 2025, and I kind of thought it would be a great chance to kind of look back at the year that was so far. And before we get to the game, we didn't really have this in the script, but still, is there one thing this year in the world of sports that kind of sticks out to you that may be the story of the year in 2025?
It's a great question. I think the biggest probably storyline, the Chiefs not three-peating. Thank gosh that happened, because I don't think any of America wanted to see that.
Also made me a richer person by like $50, but whatever. That's another story for another time. For me, it's the fact that there's just such a wide open atmosphere in the NBA. You don't have the dynasty anymore, the dynasties of the Cavs and the Warriors. That's out the window. You've had a new champion every year for the past 7 years. And I think having Oklahoma City and Indiana as your finals matchup, that was big for the NBA, because it shows that a small market team can go ahead. They can have the MVP. They can have a talented player like Tyrese Halliburton, who unfortunately got hurt in Game 7, but they can have a competitive series that goes 7 games that everybody can get into, that goes down to the very last second. And so I think the story of the year for 2025 as a basketball fan is the fact that the basketball landscape is completely open for any of the 30 teams to really step up and make a difference. So let's get to the game here. I have some questions for our mid-year in review. So sticking with basketball here, Zach, who scored more points in a single game this calendar year? A, Nikola Jokic, B, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or C, Steph Curry?
It was Jokic.
Jokic, you're right there. 61 in a game against the Timberwolves. Curry had 56 against the Magic, and SGA just had 54 against the Jazz. You know,
Yeah, half of those on free
another
throws.
day at the office. The team with the most wins in Major League Baseball after the unofficial first half, so entering the All-Star break, is A, Toronto, B, the Dodgers, or C, the Detroit Tigers?
Detroit Tigers.
2 for 2. Detroit 59 wins, the Dodgers 58, and Toronto 55. I'm kind of surprised Toronto's still up there in the AL East. How many 40-plus goal scorers were there in the NHL this season? A, 6, B, 8, C, 10.
I'm going to go with B. 8.
Starting to catch on to these games here. That is correct. Draisaitl led the league with 52 goals, Nylander 45, Ovechkin and Tage Thompson 44, Pasternak with 43, didn't make the playoffs, Point with 42, Connor and Yentzel each with 41 goals apiece. And finally, getting out of the world of sports here, let's go a little more pop culture. Kendrick Lamar has spent the most weeks this year at number 1 of the Billboard Hot 100 with 2 songs. Which song spent the most weeks at number 1? Not Like Us or Luther?
It's Not Like Us.
Wow, you are actually wrong on that one. Not Like Us was, this is actually from Yahoo, so before I get yelled at, I got this from yahoo.com.
Oh, it's Yahoo.
Not Like Us, 1 week at number 1 this year, February 22nd. Luther, 13 weeks at number 1 this year.
You know what?
I
can
haven't
see
heard
that.
of either song.
Luther's one of my favorite songs he's ever made. Not Like Us, I don't really listen to, but Luther's just one of those songs you can just keep listening to.
Not Like Us is a song apparently not
And
played.
that song was so overplayed at the time, but when it came out, it was pretty good.
Do they listen in Toronto to that song, you think? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think the majority of the world hates the guy that he's talking about.
Thanks for watching the show. I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm pop culture illiterate, so that's how we're going to end the show here. Last time I was called old. This week I'm just illiterate when it comes to pop culture. Thanks for watching this episode of the show. For Zach, I'm John. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks.